Good day, everybody, and welcome to today's latest episode on my YouTube video series. And it's Chinese New Year in Malaysia and Singapore right now. For those of you who don't know, actually in Malaysia we celebrate Chinese New Year for quite a long period. Actually, most of the traditional people, the more traditional thinking people in Malaysia, will Chinese in Malaysia will celebrate Chinese New Year up to 2 weeks, right? Because Chinese New Year actually is 15 days based on the traditional way of looking at it. So a lot of traditional businesses or older people in Malaysia will tend to like not really be working during this period easily for the first 4 or 5 days, and a lot of the older people really really not start working until the second week or so, and even then they may not be really at full capacity. A lot of factories also will close, right, for the 2 week period. It's only the so-called real year end for Chinese businesses in Malaysia, right, where they really take a quite long period. So for them, December is not the year end, right? It's Chinese New Year, where quite long off period, right? In this, so you probably will not get so much replies, even from myself. I do celebrate Chinese New Year a little bit, right? So we don't normally travel, take some time off, don't look at the phone, things like that. And I know I haven't been putting out videos in the past 3 weeks. A couple of things happened. My daughter was admitted to the hospital. I fell ill as well. I got hit by a flu quite bad. Barely recovering at this stage. But now it's I think I'm feeling a bit better now. So I'm going to try and make one video today. Wearing red, right, as per usual. During all Chinese New Year videos, I will be wearing red. So today's topic, we're going to talk something about people who have been choosing to move or have interest to come to Malaysia, right? I've noticed this trend, right, in the past 6 months or so, right? And I'm going to talk about the different types of people that are coming to Malaysia and the reasons why. The first and most obvious group, of course, the Singaporeans, all right? And Singaporeans, I mean, have an on and off relationship with Malaysia. But recently, we are seeing a very big surge again in interest from Singapore. Usually they are retirees, right? People in their 50s, 60s, 70s, right? They are doing retirement planning and they come to Malaysia, especially Johor Bahru, because number one, Johor Bahru is nearby, right? So they can still spend some portion of the time in Singapore, some portion of the time in Malaysia, and enjoy the best of both worlds. And of course, Singaporeans enjoy strong currency strength. So when they spend Singapore dollars in Malaysia, they feel that it's affordable and they can fight inflation better if they live in Malaysia, right? Of course, then Malaysia is also nearby, culturally similar, so they can a lot of things they can understand easily in Malaysia. They can speak English, can see other people from the same race as them, right? Whether you're Malay or Chinese or Indian, right? And of course, yeah, quality of life is not bad, right? And with the upcoming RTS, right, which is basically the MRT linking Singapore to Johor Bahru, I think that makes it easier for a lot of Singaporeans who retirees who typically do not drive, right? Because in Singapore, you must understand, 80% of people do not drive. So when they come to Malaysia, they want something is easy to travel by, which ideally through an MRT, which is going to be completed between JB to Singapore by end of next year, 2026, right? So this is the most common one, right? I think most of you are here also probably in the category if you're watching my video today, right? But I want to talk about other categories of people who have been uh, shown interest to come to Malaysia. One reason that why a lot of people have suddenly shown interest to come and move to Malaysia is because of the latest revamped Malaysia My Second Home program, right? As you know, the current Malaysia My Second Home program is quite lenient, I think very fair, and not difficult to apply. If you're serious about retiring in Malaysia, right, I think the Malaysia My Second Home program has proven to be quite attractive, right, and reasonable. So we do see a lot of interest, and we're getting a lot of what they call foreigners from countries like US, Canada, Europe, Australia, right? They are European citizens or US citizen, Canada citizen. Some are from Australia, and they have shown interest to come and get this Malaysia Mexico visa and move over to Malaysia. Actually, not all. Some of them can get employment pass, find a job here. Some of them have the children studying in schools over here, so they do get guardian visa through the schools. But generally speaking, I found that a lot of them are coming from these Western countries, right? And the reason why they choose Malaysia, number one, is because Malaysia is in a relatively politically stable situation right now, and of course, cost of living in Malaysia is good, right? And actually, is on a value for money basis, I think Malaysia is in a sweet spot right now, right? You don't spend too much money, but you do get quite value for money services when you stay in Malaysia, right? Of course, in Singapore, it's expensive, right? And they also like Malaysia because we can speak English very well, and with lots of choices in terms of international schools, private schools, and for quality of life, like I said, it's a very value for money thing, right? And a lot of these Western citizens who come to try and apply Malaysia my second home in Malaysia, actually I realized about half of them are Muslim, right? They are not necessarily an Arab or Arab race, just they're just Muslim, right? White Muslim, or sometimes they are from those Mediterranean countries. Used to, they managed to migrate many years ago to US or Canada. Suddenly they want to migrate back to Southeast Asia, which they feel Southeast Asia is better. Part of the reason is because they feel that in Western countries, maybe a little bit of what we call not as good as you think, because as you know, some of those stories online you see about Western countries, it is true to some extent. Quality of life in US or UK is not as good as it used to be, right? Things are expensive, taxes are high, right? Maybe they still feel a bit of overt indirect racism in these countries. Some of them are not very happy with the way Western countries have managed the Gaza war, right, in Palestine. So, and they feel that Malaysia is a good option because Malaysia is a Muslim country, right? And we are fairly progressive. We are not those Muslim countries that we are very, very, too conservative type, right? We are a fairly progressive Muslim country, and I think in that sense, actually, some of these people have also chosen to go to Dubai, right? Dubai also quite popular. I think Dubai has gotten a lot of incoming population, and I think but Malaysia is quite high up there, right? Because of weather and again cost of living, because Dubai is still more expensive than Malaysia, right? So this is the reason. So I mean the push factors are also there, as I mentioned earlier, right? Political tensions in US, in Western countries. Some of them don't like Donald Trump. So we met one guy, American. He was shifting out of US because he feel that Donald Trump is a problem, right? So he quite anti Donald Trump, right? And we also met some people from UK who felt that life in UK is not as good as it looks. So they think that Southeast Asia is a good option. So this is the one group of people that we see quite a lot. In fact, I get all these phone calls and emails all the time. I reply to most of you, most of them. The difficult thing, of course, is that because they're not familiar with Malaysia or they've only come maybe once or twice in their lifetime, they still need to spend a lot of time to understand Malaysia and whether they really, really want to move here. And like, if stay which city, stay in KL, stay in Penang, stay in Johor Bahru, these type of questions we get it very often. And normally my advice is no choice. You to come here and spend some time first, understand which area you like first, before you can really make that final decision to move. But we do get a lot of this type of queries right now. The next group, which I think we see a lot right now, are what I call the Chinese diaspora, which is normally people from mainland China, people from Taiwan, people from Hong Kong, right? They come to stay in Malaysia right now. The reason being is because Malaysia is actually one of the top 10 countries in the world that have a high overseas Chinese. So when they come over to Malaysia, they feel quite comfortable because they can see Chinese people openly, right? And we're still speaking Mandarin or speaking Cantonese, right, openly, right? And we can practice Chinese culture, Chinese religion, right? We can celebrate Chinese New Year. Like if they go to the malls in Malaysia, they can still see Chinese New Year celebration, quite big thing going on, right? So they like that, right? And they also like the fact that Southeast Asia or Malaysia, right, is in the same time zone as them, which is a +8 +9 GMT, right? So they come, they don't really have to change their hours, right? Jet lag travel is not a big thing. If they want to go back to their home country, it's normally about 4 5 hours flight, right? It's not that far, and in many cases we have direct flights from Malaysia to China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, right? And they feel that again Malaysia's in the sweet spot, value for money, not too expensive, right? But for the money that you pay, you get quite good things. I think that's one of the big reasons I think Malaysia is in a sweet spot right now, right? We are quite value for money. Like if you think about it, the amount you pay in the ringgit for the services that you get is not bad. Of course, you can pay a lot more to get better things in Singapore, right? But of course, like I said, you pay a lot more, right? So the Chinese people like to come to Malaysia for this purpose, right? That's why you see a lot of them applying Malaysia my second home. Some of them like apply Malaysia my second home to just come for the winter months. I met one old lady from China. She said this just for the winter, 3 4 months, come and stay in Malaysia. She felt that is a good holiday or second home option for her, right? We had another one case where her daughter married a Malaysian Chinese girl, married a Malaysian husband, right? So she also has applied Malaysia my second home because more convenient for her to come and travel and visit her grandchildren and her daughter in Malaysia. So these are things that we see, right? And yeah, that's one more group, right? Chinese and overseas Chinese, right? And the reason they choose Malaysia because here also got a lot of overseas Chinese. Okay, Another group that we see, what I call the ex-Singaporeans and ex-Malaysians, right? So what happened is that these people, they used to be Singaporean, they used to be Malaysian. When they were younger, they migrated outside, normally to Australia, US, Europe, right? And they live in this country for a long, long time, easily 10, 20, 30 years, right? And during their retirement age, they plan to come back to Malaysia or Singapore, right? Usually they have relatives here, which is the main reason why they want to come back, right? Sometimes this because at their retiree age, right, they feel like, actually home is still the best, Malaysia or Singapore. So they want to come back, right, and spend more time here. Of course, getting back Malaysian citizenship or Singapore citizenship is almost impossible. So they are looking for some visa where they can spend some time in Malaysia, Singapore, right, and live for long periods of time, right, maybe a few months a year still, right, or maybe even full-time retirement in Malaysia or Singapore, right. So of course, again, in this case, the Malaysia my second home is the best option for them, right. Singapore is expensive, so normally they do not choose to retire in Singapore directly. As you guys know today, right, the Australian dollar is weaker than the Singapore dollar. I think the Singapore dollar is also stronger than Canadian dollar right now. So it is expensive to live in Singapore, to retire in Singapore. So for many cases, choosing Johor Bahru or choosing Malaysia as an option, right, is a lot cheaper option for them to retire when they come back to these countries, to Southeast Asia. One more group that we see are what I call the foreigners in Singapore. Usually these are from other Southeast Asian countries like Indonesian, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, right? We also see Indian, right? And some PRC as well, China PRC, who currently living in Singapore. Usually they are on work permit or employment pass. They have been trying to get these permanent residence or citizenship in Singapore, but it's not easy, right? As you know, Singapore government is quite strict about this. So they've been here for 10, again, 5, 10 years, right? Trying to get the PR or citizenship, but cannot get. So they start to worry a little bit, and they apply for other visas in like in Malaysia, right, as a backup plan, right. Some of it apply for their children, some of it's for the parents, right. And primarily they still want to be centered around Singapore, right. A lot of their life is still in Singapore, but just in case one day the employment pass don't go through, or the not renewed, or they cannot get PR, cannot get citizenship, right, at least Malaysia, they can get a Malaysia my second home visa to live nearby, if necessary. Sometimes not for themselves, but for their parents or relatives. So I hope this was interesting for you, and I think a lot of this interest today to move to Malaysia has primarily been driven to Johor Bahru JB, and I think the reason for that is because of the Malaysia my second home special economic zone visa, right. That is of course by far the most convenient visa to get. So a lot of them are like, take the MM2H SEZ visa, and through that they are more exposed to Johor Bahru, and Johor Bahru gets a lot of exposure from this, right. We had one guy from US. He said that he preferred JB because his wife was a JB girl, right. He's a US guy but wife from JB, right. And to him, going to Singapore to enter JB is easier because there's direct flights from US to Singapore, whereas I think KL today doesn't have direct flight. So if you're taking a direct flight to the US, you still need to detour like to Hong Kong or to Tokyo before you can get into US itself. So he felt that it's easier for him to go to JB than from KL. So he flies into Singapore to enter JB, right? So he preferred JB in that perspective. So I think it's a interesting bit about how Johor Bahru is getting a lot more exposure today, right? In the old days, maybe 10, 15 years ago, most people would not even consider Johor Bahru as a place to stay or retire, but we're getting a lot of this kind of interest now. And we had this discussion also with some KL property developers. They also felt that Johor is a very hot spot right now, not only through the businesses, through data centers and through special economic zone that both governments are working with each other, but also because of they see a lot of human coming to JB, right? If not JB, then to Singapore, right? So so you're saying that JB property prices are doing well, and in many cases JB property prices are selling as high as KL, if not higher than KL, as well. This shows you how vibrant the market is, and we're getting a lot more diversity in this market right now. So hope this story was useful to you. I don't know whether this is an interesting story, but something I wanted to share. If you do like this content, do like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and we will try and create as much content which is relevant and interesting to you in the days and months to come. Thank you very much, and bye bye.